Hello Ian, connecting people, connecting places and also historians of Cruden Bay. Ian, I know you from somewhere in Peterhead. Can you introduce yourself and what you used to do in Peterhead as I knew you?
Yes, I'm Ian Kennedy. I used to be the community warden for 13 years in Peterhead.
Ian, you have been telling us about a lovely connection of yours in Cruden Bay.
Yes, my mum and dad were both brought up in Cruden Bay. My mum's side was Johnny Gibb, the butcher, and this is a picture here, Johnny Gibb. This could be the two brothers of my mum's. They were the butchers. And this is a nice one too. Could again the two brothers, John Gibb, right at the door with a horse and cart. So it shows you how long ago it was. And the period of the picture would be early 1900s. This is the scales from my granddad's shop. This would have been just used for the small kind of items in the shop. My granddad also had sheep, and he had an abattoir which was just directly across from the golf course in Cruden Bay. Yeah. I was just recollecting just now what my mum had told me. She'd been up to see my granddad's sheep with him and just checking it one night, and they saw this red glow in the horizon. What it was the Russian convoys from Granton, Dundee and Aberdeen, and they were being hit by U-boats just right on the horizon. My mother was brought up at the Nuke, which was just attached to the butcher shop. Both her brothers were involved in the business. The local loons, as she said, worked for them too. They had the horse and cart and they had their bikes. So they would have been delivering beef to run about the village in Hatton. They'd also a butcher shop in Hatton. My granddad, Johnny Gibb the butcher, both his brothers had farms. There was one a doctor in London, and he had a farm beside Hatton, and the other one had a farm just outside Cruden Bay. So there could have been a tie-in there with getting the cattle and obviously the meat for the butcher's shop. Grandad Gibb, the butcher, Johnny Gibb, he had two sons. Sadly, the youngest son, John Jr., died in a road accident, more or less 30 metres for the Nuke, just right on the bridge. He had an accident when he was going up to open up the other butcher shop in Hatton. He had an accident with a milk cart. It was coming into Cruden Bay to make deliveries. And this is a photo of the funeral cortege. And this happened in the winter of 1929. There was a good attendance on the day of the funeral, and we've noticed two of the men wearing some of the livery just there right in the middle of the photo of the Masonic Lodge of Cruden Bay, and the amount of vehicles you can see along the street, and also a bus. But probably because they were well known, well kent as you could say in the port, and also because it was a young man that had passed away. He was just 23 at the time. I also recall my mother was Annabella Gibb. That was Johnny the butcher's daughter, only daughter. My mum speaking about young John had passed away in the previous clip we showed you. He would have been also into his bike racing, which the locals held every week or so in the summer, and that was on the beach. So he was off into his bike racing. She remembers going along there and smelling the grease coming off the bikes, because it had to be well greased to keep the sand out of the motorbikes. This is an artefact for the Gibbs. It's been handed down through the ages. It's actually a lamp. Presume it was used in the back shop. It's a smoky devil of a thing would have been. It just basically was oils and reeds it was used with. But you can imagine the back shop, not much hygiene there, with the guys maybe smoking, cutting up the meat, and this smoky thing.
If it was used, what did they use to light it, Ian?
It was actually oils and reeds they used. It must have been a smoky devil of a thing.
And what's it called?
It's a cruisy lamp. It's known as a cruisy lamp. This is a wee snippet for the past. The story behind this is it was one of the maids for the Cruden Bay Hotel, and it was the 14th of September 27, the letter's written. Basically, her and the chauffeur were given the task of going down to the local butcher, my granddad's butcher shop, to pay a bill. And she took her fancy to one of the butcher's boys. Unfortunately for her, it backfired a wee bit because the chauffeur, it was where that day, told the story to the staff the next day, and she was a wee bit hot under the collar about it. But if you just see the top of the letter there, it clearly says the Cruden Bay Hotel, and it marked the date there. So it's a nice wee story.
More snippets from Ian of Cruden Bay.
Yes, it must be the Cruden Bay. I'm recounting a few things now. My mother's cousin, Sandy Gibb, this was Johnny Gibb's brother's laddie. He remembers going down with his dad for Bilbo Farm with eggs, because they had a lot of hens, eggs to the railway hotel. Remembers going down one winter morning, it was a cold morning, and the head chef asked him if he wanted a cup of coffee, and some of the eggs had been spoiled, so they couldn't go to the toffs or having their breakfast. They got a wee glimpse through to the place where they were eating, and he remembers these ladies in all their finery with their diamonds, jewellery, and their gloves up their arms, and sitting with their hats on at their breakfast, and they got their eggs and coffee, and he just thought it was special, this. Another connection with the hotel was a golf course, obviously with it being in close proximity. My dad had a pal, and his oldest brother got 10 shillings once for a gentleman because he'd been a caddie for the day. So he was fair chuffed. He asked the gent what he actually did, and the gent told him his family had made their fortune with what people left on their plates. And this was actually Jeremiah Coleman of the famous Coleman mustard family, who had resided at the hotel, and that was him playing golf on the course.
And there was other famous people, wasn't there, Ian?
Yes, there was Cadbury's, Salveson's, yes. So it was. This is a nice photo of the hotel, actually, if I can read it out. Cruden Bay Hotel, built in 1899 by the Great North of Scotland Railway Company and demolished in 1947. At its peak, the hotel's guest list read like a roll call of big business, and you can see clearly the wee tram there. They were brought up to Cruden Bay, brought from Cruden Bay, to Hatton by Forbes Simmers, and they were used as sun huts in two of the gardens at Simmers Bakery's had, and one of them ended up, it's now in Arthur Museum, and it's definitely worth seeing.
Oh, right. What's that building in the far left, Ian?
Yeah, I've just spotted it at the back. That's the laundry. That was the hotel laundry. So look at the size of that. Simmers actually rented it in the 60s, and I remember myself and some of my pals for Hatton, we used to get jobs taking biscuits down for Hatton, and also getting the biscuits for there to put into vans to deliver in the northeast. That's what it was used for. The tree.
Or if it's this that you're looking at, oh my goodness, it's a, what is it, Ian? What is it?
It's a newspaper advertisement, basically just before the hotel was opened in 1898, just showing some of the finery of it. Another incredible little snippet. This sword actually lay in the butcher's house at the Nuke at Cruden Bay. My mother got it, so it lay in our house in the attic, and I've got it now. The story behind it was unearthed when one of the greenkeepers and his mates were actually moving and shifting one of the greens at Cruden Bay Golf Club. They gave it to my granddad, the butcher. That's the sword. If only it could speak. One of the historians in Cruden Bay actually thought it might have belonged to one of the smugglers taking contraband ashore, which went on a lot here for Colliston up this coast. It could have been the smuggler, or it could have been one of the guys that was actually tasked with stopping the smuggling in a skirmish or a chase. It might have been left and covered in sand.